War sect. Origin of the deity of war. Name, Crop. Crop's beginnings are a little humbler than some of the other deities. He started as a great warrior, with a terrible secret. He was cursed at birth with the powers of a great magician. He used his powers to learn the art of war and to keep in touch with the world around him. Due to his dislike of magic, he continued to store up great magical reserves in his frail human body. One day his army was beaten up against the inland sea, and rather than see his beloved soldiers die, he reached deep within himself and let all the pent-up energy that he was carrying loose against his enemies. A man destroyed the enemies. Rather than flee in terror from him, his soldiers fell and worshipped him as their hero. From that point on, the deity of war was born. Minor spells. Enchant weapon causes a regular, magical weapon to become enchanted. The weapon is now able to smash through armor and shields. In the case of arrows, it acts like a small missile. Duration is dice dependent. Strength upgrade causes the caster, companion to have a doubling in strength for a certain time. Duration is dice dependent. Message. The caster can send any of his, her companions a message, no matter how far away they are. Spiked, studded wall, creates a large metal spiked and studded wall 4 feet wide and 6 feet tall that the caster can hurl at an enemy. With lifting, duration is dice dependent. Hardness. The caster's weapon, arrow, becomes strengthened to a super hardness, and is thus able to penetrate armor or doors much easier. Rhino charge. The caster can hit the target with the force of a charging rhinoceros. Code cracking. The caster can crack any enemy codes. Duration is dice dependent. Mid-level spells. Arrow storm causes a hail, 30 to 40, of arrows to hit a certain area. Airborne. The caster's target drops on the enemy from above. Blinding light causes a light that will cause blindness to all who look at it. Duration is dice dependent. Bandoliers. A never-ending belt of throwing knives, or a never-ending quiver, appear on the target. Duration is dice dependent. Summon war mount. Caster calls forth a mighty war beast, part lizard, and part feline, that the caster can ride upon. This beast can attack with teeth and claws. The amount will stay till the next morning. Thunderclap. The caster claps her hands together, causing a mighty noise that stuns all who hear it. Metal melt causes the target metal to become red hot and melt. Duration is dice dependent. Fear causes the enemy to run in fear from the caster for a certain time. Duration is dice dependent. Beaten zone. An area is created in which all range weapons entering the area automatically hit their target and cause a mortal wound. The area is 100 feet by 100 feet. Duration is dice dependent. Ferocity. The caster causes the target to become exceedingly ferocious, and the target can now take 3 to 4 mortal hits before being stopped. Duration is dice dependent. Mountain stance. The caster can withstand any rush attack and not be moved. The caster has her feet planted with the power of the mountains. Duration is dice dependent. Reverse. The caster causes the attack to turn back on the attacker. Multicolored shield. The caster creates a shield of 4 colors. Red blocks fire, white blocks ice, gray blocks range attacks, and orange blocks magical spells. The shield can take 4 hits for each color before no longer stopping that substance. Scimitar protection. A giant scimitar appears near the target, protecting them from attacks, and doing the target's bidding. Duration is dice dependent. Major spells. Godly shout. Caster yells at such volume that the target's eardrums rupture and all breakable items shatter. All metal weapons vibrate so hard that the target loses her grip on them. Personal shield. The caster can create a shield to protect herself. This can be shaped into any shape of a reasonable size. It can be used as a sword, javelin, whip, or made into some other shape to attack with. duration is dice dependent. This spell will stop both magic and non-magical attacks, amounting to up to 1 roll of the dice, minimum 5. Summon Warrior. The caster calls forth a mighty warrior to act as his bodyguard. Duration is dice dependent. This guard is equipped with a sword and shield or bow, arrows. Blood to water. The caster causes all the blood in the target to turn to water. Duration is dice dependent. Bayonet. The target receives a magic knife that they can use to cut through all protection and penetrate any armor. This includes all magical protection, barriers. This knife lasts just 1 turn. Dragon Might. Caster receives the strength of a small dragon. Duration is dice dependent. Bloodlust. Causes caster, companions to go on an attacking spree, being able to soak up more damage and magical attacks than before. Also increases the character's speed and ability. Duration is dice dependent. Ambush. The target can creep up on the intended victim without being detected by any means except for a clerical mind sweep. If the target attacks or does magic on the way, then the spell is broken. Duration is dice dependent. Alpha. The target receives all the abilities and powers from everyone in a 100-foot radius around them. As the abilities and magic leave the area, those who had them before fall helpless to the ground. Duration is dice dependent. Ogre Power. Caster, companions have the power of an ogre for a certain time. Duration is dice dependent.